Seniors, stop eating 7 worst fruits. They are destroying your leg strength. For individuals navigating their golden years, a common piece of advice is to increase fruit consumption. However, a crucial aspect that often goes unaddressed is how certain fruits, particularly after the age of 60, can insidiously undermine circulatory health, diminish leg strength, and hasten the process of muscle loss. This detrimental effect extends beyond the simple sugar content. It involves the intricate ways an aging body metabolizes specific compounds found within these fruits, leading to detrimental blood sugar spikes, depletion of essential magnesium levels, and even impaired oxygen delivery to the muscles. This video aims to illuminate the 7 fruits that seniors should immediately reevaluate in their diet, and more importantly, introduce beneficial alternatives to safeguard their physical fortitude, enduring stamina, and the stability required for confident balance. Bananas, the contextual calamity. Bananas are often lauded as the quintessential healthy snack, a ubiquitous presence in gym bags, lunch boxes, and breakfast routines, and for good reason. Their ease of peeling, minimal preparation needs, and ability to provide a rapid energy uplift make them incredibly convenient. However, a significant caveat is often overlooked: the contextual nature of bananas. Their impact on your well-being hinges entirely on your lifestyle. For those who are actively engaged in regular physical activity, consistent walking, vigorous workouts, or intense gardening, bananas serve as a readily digestible fuel source that the body can efficiently utilize. In contrast, for individuals over 60 who lead a more sedentary existence, bananas can contribute silently to feelings of fatigue, increased abdominal fat, the development of insulin resistance, and even persistent muscle cramps. The sugar content in bananas is a primary concern. A single medium banana harbors approximately 14 grams of sugar. While it is natural sugar, its effect on the bloodstream is akin to refined sugar. Upon consumption, particularly when eaten in isolation or without the buffering effect of protein or healthy fats, bananas can trigger a rapid spike in blood sugar levels. This surge prompts a corresponding release of insulin, the hormone responsible for regulating blood sugar by facilitating its uptake and storage, often as body fat. Following this insulin surge, blood sugar levels can then plummet, leading to sensations of fatigue, mental fogginess, irritability, and an often insatiable craving for more sugar to restore energy. This cycle, often mistaken for the natural progression of aging, is in fact a manifestation of unstable glucose levels. For the physically active, the sugar from a banana can be effectively used as immediate fuel. Their muscles are primed to absorb and utilize it, their insulin response is robust, and their metabolism is capable of handling such spikes. However, if your daily routine involves extended periods of sitting, minimal physical movement, or only light household chores, this readily available sugar has nowhere to go. Consequently, the body tends to store it, primarily in the abdominal region. This accumulation of visceral fat is particularly concerning due to its proximity to vital organs, significantly increasing the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and cognitive decline over time. Beyond the sugar, nutrient imbalance is another significant issue. Bananas are renowned for their high potassium content, a mineral crucial for heart rhythm, nerve function, and fluid balance. While this is beneficial, it's compounded by their low magnesium levels. Potassium and magnesium work synergistically to support muscle function, maintain hydration, and facilitate nerve signaling. An imbalance, where potassium is abundant and magnesium is deficient, can manifest in several ways, especially in older adults whose magnesium reserves are often compromised by stress, medications, and the natural aging process. This imbalance is a common precursor to muscle cramps, particularly nocturnal leg cramps and calf tightness, which are often not random occurrences, but rather signals of disordered mineral ratios. Ironically, many seniors attempt to alleviate these cramps by consuming more bananas, believing the extra potassium will help, when in reality, their bodies are signaling a need for increased magnesium. This approach often exacerbates the cramps rather than resolving them, as the body's message is one of imbalance, not confusion. The takeaway is not that bananas are inherently bad, rather, they are a tool that must be employed judiciously, at the right time, for the right purpose, and by the appropriate individual. A banana is perfectly suitable before engaging in strenuous activities like hiking, weightlifting, dancing, playing tennis, or performing physical labor, as the body is prepared to utilize its quick energy effectively. However, consuming a banana while passively relaxing, such as watching television, simply leads to an unnecessary blood sugar spike without a corresponding metabolic demand, placing a burden on the body. If bananas are a favored fruit, consider incorporating them in a more supportive manner. Never consume them in isolation. Pair them with a source of protein and healthy fats, such as half a banana with almond butter and cinnamon, or blend them into a smoothie alongside leafy greens, chia seeds, and collagen protein. Prioritize eating them post-exercise rather than as a passive snack. Furthermore, limit their frequency. Daily consumption is excessive for a sedentary lifestyle. Opting for once or twice a week when your body has demonstrably earned the fuel is a more prudent approach. Should you experience post-breakfast fatigue, unexplained weight gain around the midsection, mid-morning energy crashes, or nighttime leg cramps, consider temporarily removing bananas from your diet for a 2-week period to observe any changes. Replacing them with lower glycemic index fruits like berries or green apples, and increasing your intake of magnesium-rich foods such as pumpkin seeds, leafy greens, or dark chocolate, along with consuming mineralized water, can help support your body's genuine needs rather than succumbing to cravings. In our pursuit of simplistic health solutions, it is vital to remember that health is fundamentally about context. Bananas are not inherently problematic, but they are frequently mismatched with individual physiological needs. As we age, precision in our dietary choices becomes increasingly important. Every food item consumed either contributes to our energy reserves or depletes them, either harmonizes with our metabolism or hinders its smooth operation. The key to understanding this is to listen not to fleeting trends, but to the innate signals of your own body. Honestly assess whether you feel sharper, lighter, and clearer after consuming bananas, or if you experience a subsequent fog, fatigue, and bloating an hour later. Your body is constantly communicating. Its messages are always present, and sometimes true health begins with questioning what we have long assumed to be safe and beneficial. Bananas are not inherently harmful, but their suitability varies greatly, and daily consumption is ill-advised for those leading a less active lifestyle. Grapes, the deceptive delicacy. Grapes, with their seemingly innocuous appearance, refreshing taste, and convenient bite-sized format, often present themselves as a safe and even virtuous snack choice, a preferable alternative to candies or chips. For years, they have been promoted for their heart-healthy properties, their abundance of antioxidants like resveratrol, their supposed benefits for skin health, and even their protective role against various diseases. However, for older adults, particularly those with limited mobility or experiencing sluggish circulation, grapes can subtly transform into one of the most deceptive instigators of inflammation and metabolic dysfunction within the daily diet. The underlying issue lies in the fact that grapes are essentially concentrated sugar. Their soft skin and succulent interior are brimming with glucose and fructose, two forms of sugar that are rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream. A mere handful, comprising approximately 15 to 20 grapes, can contain upwards of 20 grams of sugar, a quantity comparable to that found in a small candy bar. Crucially, unlike a candy bar, grapes do not carry warning labels that prompt consideration. They do not evoke a sense of indulgence, but rather a feeling of natural goodness. Yet, natural does not equate to neutral. For the aging body, which possesses a diminished capacity for efficient sugar processing, grapes can inflict more harm than is commonly understood, especially when consumed thoughtlessly throughout the day. The problematic cycle begins with a rapid glucose spike. Upon ingestion, grapes swiftly enter the bloodstream, leading to a sharp and immediate increase in blood sugar levels. In younger individuals with heightened insulin sensitivity, this spike is efficiently managed. However, in older adults, particularly those contending with insulin resistance, prediabetes, or a decline in pancreatic function, this sugar remains in the bloodstream for a prolonged period. This creates a fluctuating pattern of spikes and subsequent crashes, inundating the system with insulin intermittently and then draining energy reserves. Each recurrence of this cycle exacts a toll on the body, contributing to increased inflammation, weakening of capillary walls, and undue stress on the vascular system. The physical manifestations of this strain can include swelling in the ankles, puffiness in the fingers, and a sensation of heaviness in the legs by the afternoon. These are not merely indicators of poor circulation, they are compelling signals of glycemic overload, reflecting the body's struggle to effectively clear sugar from the blood, maintain fluid balance, and preserve vascular tone. While grapes may appear light and refreshing, their metabolic impact is anything but. This is particularly relevant for seniors already grappling with conditions such as varicose veins, neuropathy, tingling sensations in the extremities, or restless legs at night. Grapes can inadvertently exacerbate these very issues that they are attempting to alleviate. The irony is that many seniors consume grapes between meals, a time when their insulin levels are already prone to instability and their digestive processes are slower. This habit not only leads to unpredictable blood sugar fluctuations, but also places an additional burden on the liver, which must process the excess sugar that is not utilized for immediate energy. Furthermore, if physical activity is limited, such as during periods of sitting, reading, or resting after a meal, this sugar has no readily available outlet for expenditure. Consequently, it is stored, primarily in the abdominal area, the liver, and the bloodstream. Over time, this contributes to increased abdominal fat, the development of a fatty liver, elevated triglycerides, and systemic inflammation. While grapes do contain beneficial antioxidants like resveratrol, which has been associated with cardiovascular advantages, it is important to note that achieving a therapeutic dose would necessitate consuming an impractically large quantity of grapes. By that point, the excessive sugar intake would have introduced significant metabolic stress, likely overshadowing any potential benefits. For a more effective and safer intake of resveratrol, a supplement or moderate consumption of fermented, low-sugar sources like red wine would be more advisable. Grapes are not detrimental due to a lack of nutritional value, but rather due to their propensity to overwhelm the body's system with sugar before any positive effects can be realized. Therefore, a prudent alternative is to embrace safer fruit choices. Berries, such as raspberries and blueberries, are significantly lower in sugar and richer in fiber. A handful of these berries provides a wealth of antioxidants, supports blood vessel health, and exerts a considerably lower glycemic impact. Even modest portions of sliced green apples with cinnamon or pears can offer sweetness without inducing a sugar bomb effect. If fruit consumption is desired, it is best to integrate it with a meal, rather than consuming it in isolation. Combining fruit with sources of fat, protein, or fiber helps to blunt the subsequent glucose response. Grapes should never be consumed as a solitary snack, especially in the late afternoon or evening when insulin sensitivity is typically at its lowest. The most crucial consideration is that the body undergoes changes with age. Dietary strategies that were effective in one's 30s may no longer be beneficial in one's 60s or 70s. The capacity to tolerate sugar, regulate blood pressure, manage fluid retention, and ensure efficient blood circulation all tend to decline with age. This is not a matter of personal failing, but rather a biological reality that necessitates adaptation. Grapes may have been a suitable indulgence when one was actively engaged in chasing children or managing daily errands. However, in periods of reduced physical activity and slower recovery, a more discerning approach to food choices becomes imperative, not necessarily restrictive, but certainly more intentional. If you are experiencing symptoms such as swelling, post-meal fatigue, restless legs, or tingling in your feet, it is advisable to honestly assess the frequency with which grapes feature in your dietary routine. Are they genuinely contributing to your well-being, or have they become a passive habit, an unexamined indulgence masquerading as a healthy choice? The body invariably communicates its state through symptoms, and if yours is sending signals, it is time to heed them. Grapes are not inherently harmful, but they are a mismatched food for a significant number of seniors. It is essential to look beyond the simple classification of fruit and be guided by how your body feels, energized and clear, or swollen, tired, and foggy. Your circulatory system, your insulin regulation, and your overall energy levels deserve a more supportive approach than a fruit that subtly challenges your system while purporting to nourish it. Prioritizing an understanding of your body's unique biological needs is paramount, and it involves refraining from succumbing to the allure of sugary foods disguised as healthy options. Watermelon, the sugary mirage. Watermelon, the quintessential fruit of summer, conjures images of picnics, lazy afternoons, and childhood joys. Its sweet, juicy, and refreshing nature, coupled with its vibrant pink flesh and cool essence, evokes a powerful sense of nostalgia. Culturally, it has been embraced as a healthy choice, primarily due to its high water content, which contributes to hydration and a perception of lightness. However, the unvarnished reality, which many are reluctant to acknowledge, is that watermelon, for individuals over 60 who lead a less active life, can be one of the most detrimental fruits for regular snacking. This is not due to its artificiality, but rather because the aging body struggles to cope with the blood sugar fluctuations it engenders. Watermelon is composed of approximately 92% water, with the remaining portion being predominantly sugar. It contains minimal fiber and virtually no fat or protein, elements that would typically slow down the digestive process. Consequently, when consumed, especially on an empty stomach or without other foods to provide balance, it rapidly enters the bloodstream. Scientifically, it possesses a high glycemic index, typically ranging from 72 to 80, depending on its ripeness, which is even higher than that of white bread. For older adults, whose insulin sensitivity naturally declines, whose pancreatic response is less robust, and whose blood sugar regulation becomes more precarious, such a pronounced spike can trigger a metabolic cascade. Blood sugar levels surge, leading to a fleeting sense of energy. However, within 30 to 60 minutes, this sugar crashes, leaving one feeling weaker and more fatigued than before. Symptoms such as hand tremors, a feeling of heaviness in the legs, and impaired mental clarity can emerge. When this cycle of spikes and crashes repeats daily, the delicate vascular network, particularly the capillaries in the extremities and the brain, begins to suffer. Despite its light and refreshing taste, watermelon's physiological effects are anything but. A less discussed consequence of frequent consumption of high glycemic foods is the damage inflicted upon the microcirculation, the intricate network of tiny blood vessels responsible for delivering oxygen and nutrients to the fingers, toes, eyes, and brain. Chronic blood sugar spikes contribute to inflammation and stiffness in these vessels, compromising their function and hindering efficient blood flow. Tissues then receive inadequate nutrient supply. The initial signs of this compromise can manifest as cold extremities, numbness or tingling sensations, restless legs at night, lightheadedness upon standing, or a slower rate of wound healing, particularly in the lower legs. These are not simply age-related phenomena, but are indicative of compromised circulation, a process that can be either exacerbated or supported by dietary choices. Adding to this concern is the common practice of consuming watermelon as a standalone snack, often in the mid-afternoon after lunch. It is rarely paired with protein or fat, thus lacking any buffering mechanism. It enters the system akin to liquid sugar, and the larger the portion, the more significant the impact. It is not necessary to consume an entire melon to experience adverse effects. Even a few slices consumed daily can establish a pattern of blood sugar instability and circulatory compromise. For older adults, particularly those with prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, or metabolic syndrome, this pattern is a direct pathway to long-term health decline. Furthermore, the perception of watermelon as purely hydrating is misleading. Without the necessary minerals, such as sodium, potassium, and magnesium, to facilitate cellular water retention, the water from watermelon tends to pass through the body quickly. This can paradoxically lead to dehydration, with increased urinary frequency and subsequent feelings of fatigue, dry mouth, and dizziness that are disproportionate to the amount of fluid consumed. Again, these symptoms may not be solely attributable to aging, but can arise from an electrolyte imbalance caused by an ineffective hydration strategy. Watermelon provides fluid, but it does not supply the essential elements required for optimal hydration. Therefore, a more informed approach involves shifting from mindless consumption to intentional enjoyment. If watermelon is to be consumed, it should be treated as a dessert rather than a primary hydration source. A small portion consumed after a balanced meal, not on an empty stomach, is recommended. Pairing it with healthy fats or protein, such as a few almonds or a small portion of cheese, can help stabilize blood sugar and slow its absorption. Most importantly, it should not be a daily occurrence. It is best reserved for occasional enjoyment rather than habitual consumption. Observing the positive effects on your energy levels, balance, and mental clarity after such adjustments can be quite revealing. If you have been experiencing unexplained fatigue, a feeling of heaviness in your legs, mental fogginess in the mornings, or energy crashes in the afternoons, it is worth scrutinizing your snacking habits. While you may believe you are making a healthy choice, your body, especially after the age of 60, processes watermelon differently than it did in younger years. What was once benign can now carry a significant physiological cost. The efficiency of your circulation, the stability of your blood flow, and the clarity of your mind are all vital aspects of well-being, and each dietary decision sends a message, either towards enhancing health or detracting from it. Thus, the next time you consider reaching for a slice of watermelon, ask yourself, am I truly fueling my body, or am I flooding it with a sugary indulgence? Your answer will profoundly influence how you feel throughout the remainder of the day. Fruit juice, the concentrated deception. The ubiquity of fruit juice in grocery aisles and its long-standing association with health represent one of the most pervasive deceptions in the food industry, a narrative ingrained since childhood. The ingrained belief that a glass of orange juice at breakfast is a cornerstone of good health, that apple juice is a virtuous alternative to soda, or that grape juice offers cardiac benefits has been perpetuated through marketing. Labels proclaiming 100% juice, no added sugar, immune support, and packed with vitamin C all contribute to an image of nourishment and responsible dietary choices. However, for individuals over 60, particularly those who are not regularly exercising, the daily consumption of fruit juice is not merely unhelpful, it actively undermines vascular health, disrupts metabolic processes, and compromises the ability to maintain stable physical footing. The stark truth, rarely communicated by the beverage industry, is that fruit juice is essentially concentrated sugar. Its perceived health benefits are nullified once the fiber from the fruit is removed, along with the act of chewing, the sensation of fullness, and the slow, deliberate digestion process. What remains is a liquid sugar that directly assaults the liver, causes blood sugar spikes, and accelerates the aging process. The older one becomes, the more challenging it is for the body to recover from this cumulative damage. To illustrate, a single 8-ounce glass of orange juice typically contains between 21 and 26 grams of sugar, predominantly in the form of fructose. This is equivalent to roughly 5 to 6 teaspoons of sugar consumed in one sitting. Yet because it is presented as juice, it does not evoke the same sense of indulgence as consuming dessert. Instead, it fosters a perception of having made a healthy choice, a notion reinforced by industry marketing that equates juice with vitamins. Fructose, however, does not behave like glucose. It bypasses the bloodstream to be directly metabolized by the liver. When large quantities of fructose are introduced to the liver daily, particularly without the presence of fiber or physical activity, the consequences are predictable and severe, leading to fatty liver disease, insulin resistance, and systemic inflammation. The liver, already less efficient with age, becomes overwhelmed. It begins to store excess fructose as visceral fat, the dangerous fat that encases internal organs. This visceral fat actively releases hormones and inflammatory compounds that damage blood vessels, impede muscle recovery, and heighten the risk of falls, swelling, and diminished mobility. This cascade of negative effects can be initiated by something as seemingly benign as a daily glass of juice. Furthermore, many seniors consume juice first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. This timing is particularly detrimental as it lacks any accompanying food to slow digestion, fiber to bind the sugar, or nutrients to buffer the metabolic impact. The result is a dramatic spike in blood sugar, followed by a surge in insulin, and within 1 to 2 hours, a significant energy crash, accompanied by mental fogginess and an intensified craving for more sugar. If this juice is paired with carbohydrates like toast or cereal, the sugar overload is compounded, placing immense strain on the pancreas and progressively weakening circulation, which is acutely felt in the legs. The heavy, unstable sensation during walking, the wobbliness on stairs, the difficulty in maintaining balance after a meal, these are not merely signs of aging, but manifestations of sugar-induced vascular fatigue. This issue is not confined to orange juice. Apple juice, grape juice, cranberry juice, pomegranate juice, and even their no sugar added variants exert similar adverse effects. In the absence of fiber, the body processes them much like sugary sodas. In fact, most juices contain comparable or even higher sugar content than many carbonated soft drinks, delivering calories that do not induce satiety, leaving individuals feeling sluggish, bloated, and unexpectedly depleted. Perhaps the most concerning consequence is the development of insulin resistance. This condition, where the body's cells become less responsive to insulin, serves as the initial domino in the progression toward metabolic diseases. It explains why some seniors experience weight gain despite reduced food intake, why abdominal fat becomes stubbornly resistant to reduction, and why energy levels plummet after even short periods of activity. Once insulin loses its efficacy, muscles are unable to effectively utilize fuel, circulation fails to adapt appropriately, and the ability to remain upright, steady, and mentally sharp is significantly compromised. Therefore, it must be stated plainly, if you are consuming juice daily, cease immediately. It does not provide adequate hydration, offer protection, or deliver sustained energy. Instead, it actively causes harm. Even freshly squeezed juice at home, including varieties with pulp, is deficient in the crucial element that makes whole fruit healthy: fiber. You are not drinking fruit. You are consuming fruit's concentrated sugar. The remarkable aspect is that many seniors report significant improvements in their well-being within days of discontinuing juice consumption. Bloating subsides, legs feel lighter, balance improves, and hunger levels normalize. The characteristic afternoon energy crash disappears. By ceasing the constant influx of fructose, the liver can begin to recover, insulin function can be restored, and the muscles, brain, and gut can reestablish a harmonious equilibrium. For hydration, choose water. For flavor, add natural enhancers like lemon, cucumber, or mint. For essential nutrients, consume whole fruits, including the skin and pulp. Apples, berries, and pears, while containing sugar, are packaged with fiber, allowing for a gentle and safe entry into the system. This is how nature intended fruit to be consumed. Juice represents a hijacking of this natural design, a shortcut that comes with a substantial price. So, the next time you reach for a bottle of juice, ask yourself, am I drinking this for my health or out of a habit that is hindering my progress? Your body is communicating through its circulatory system, its balance, and its cravings, and its messages are becoming increasingly urgent. Breaking this cycle and eliminating juice is a crucial step toward improved health. Your liver, blood vessels, legs, and mental clarity will undoubtedly benefit from this essential dietary change. Dried fruits, the dehydrating danger. Dried fruits, small, sweet, and conveniently portable, have become a popular choice for those seeking a healthier alternative to traditional sweets. A handful of raisins, a few dried apricots after dinner, or dates with almonds in the afternoon are often perceived as smart, nutrient-dense snacks. The marketing surrounding dried fruits, emphasizing no added sugar, gluten-free, natural, and antioxidant-rich, further solidifies this perception. However, the reality is that for most seniors, dried fruit is far from a healthy snack. In fact, for many, it represents a significant metabolic and hydration hazard masquerading behind a health-conscious facade. To understand the underlying issues, one must look beyond the size and the label. A raisin is not simply a dehydrated grape, and a date is not merely a form of unprocessed fruit. The drying process removes water, a crucial component of whole fruit. This concentration process intensifies the sugars within, transforming a juicy, balanced bite into a calorie-dense, fiber-deficient, sugar-laden entity that the body processes more akin to candy than to whole food. Consider the nutritional breakdown. A single date can contain approximately 16 grams of sugar, exceeding the sugar content of many cookies. 1 cup of raisins boasts over 85 grams of sugar, a quantity comparable to drinking 2 cans of soda, but without the liquid volume. Because dried fruits are small and easily consumed in quantity, people often eat them by the handful without mindful chewing or reaching a sense of fullness. Consequently, it is alarmingly easy to ingest 3, 4, or even 5 times the amount of sugar the body can efficiently process in a single sitting, often without conscious awareness. This rapid sugar influx triggers immediate physiological responses: a sharp increase in blood sugar, a subsequent rise in insulin, and the characteristic energy, mood, and cognitive roller coaster that follows. While an initial burst of energy and a fleeting sense of satisfaction might be experienced, the subsequent plunge in blood sugar within an hour leaves one feeling fatigued, sluggish, and potentially irritable. Moreover, the absence of adequate fiber and hydration to counterbalance this sugar load leads to digestive issues, joint stiffness, and diminished muscle elasticity. The impact is amplified for older adults. Dried fruits possess dehydrating properties. The body's muscles, ligaments, and organs rely on water to maintain suppleness and optimal function. Water lubricates the joints, aids the heart in efficient pumping, and supports skin elasticity and digestive regularity. However, dried fruits, despite their chewy texture, actively draw water from the system during digestion. They absorb fluid as they break down in the gut, fluid that an aging body, often already prone to dehydration, can ill afford to lose. This explains the frequent feelings of bloating, cramping, or constipation experienced after consuming dried fruits. The body is internally drying out, and the consumption of dried fruits exacerbates this process. Further compounding the issue is the fact that many commercially available dried fruits are coated with oils to prevent sticking or are infused with added sugars, particularly cranberries, pineapple, and mango. Even those marketed as no added sugar can contain preservatives like sulfur dioxide, which can cause respiratory and digestive irritation in sensitive individuals. These are not pristine foods. They are processed products stripped of their natural water content, loaded with concentrated sugar, and preserved for shelf life, rather than for the benefit of one's health. The consequences of this dietary pattern manifest subtly: tightened calf muscles, restless legs at night, increased joint pain, delayed recovery after physical activity, muscle fatigue disproportionate to exertion, a persistent dry mouth despite adequate water intake, dizziness upon standing, and an ongoing craving for more snacks. These are not simply the unavoidable hallmarks of aging. They are indicators that the body is being destabilized by dietary choices, and dried fruits often serve as a hidden catalyst for these imbalances. The solution is straightforward: eliminate dried fruits from the diet or treat them as an infrequent indulgence. If dried fruit is consumed, it should be in very small quantities: 2 dates, not 8, 5 raisins, not a generous handful. Critically, it must always be paired with foods that slow sugar absorption, such as protein, fat, or fiber. A more beneficial approach is to substitute them entirely with fresh fruit. A few slices of apple or pear or a serving of berries still contain sugar, but they are accompanied by water, fiber, and volume, providing satiety with a far less significant metabolic impact. They are digested more slowly, leading to steadier blood sugar levels and improved hydration. If the inclination towards dried fruits stems from habit, a desire for something to chew during television viewing, remedy for the afternoon slump, or a perceived good alternative to chocolate, it is essential to pause and consider what the body truly needs. Is it energy, connection, or hydration? Dried fruit offers an easy solution, but it fails to address the underlying requirements. Your body deserves more than this deceptive sweetness. Therefore, the next time you encounter trail mix, individual boxes of raisins, or gourmet medjool dates, remember that small does not equate to safe, and sweet does not equate to wise. If you are experiencing increased joint stiffness, reduced energy levels, heightened cravings, or slower digestion, dried fruits may be silently hindering your progress. Do not be swayed by the marketing of health food. Resist allowing nostalgia to dictate your biology. Nourish your body with what it genuinely requires: hydration, stability, clarity, and authentic nourishment, not sugar disguised as dryness. Canned fruit in syrup, the sweetened sabotage. At first glance, canned fruit in syrup appears to be a convenient and relatively harmless option. A tin of peaches, a cup of pears, or slices of pineapple suspended in a sweet, golden syrup seem like a reasonable choice, especially when contrasted with more overtly unhealthy options like cake, donuts, or candy. However, the unspoken truth, often not recognized by seniors until it is too late, is that once fruit is preserved in syrup, it ceases to be a healthy food and transforms into a metabolic threat. It is not merely less healthy, it is dangerous, subtly disguised. For individuals over 60 who are experiencing challenges with circulation, energy fluctuations, leg swelling, or tingling in their feet, this perceived health food could very well be a contributing factor to their decline. It is imperative to understand that fruit canned in syrup is no longer genuine fruit. It is fruit that has been processed, softened, and submerged in a sugar-laden liquid. The syrup itself is often derived from high fructose corn syrup, one of the most inflammatory substances prevalent in contemporary food systems. This is not the type of sugar that can be readily burned off with a brisk walk. Instead, it enters the bloodstream directly, overwhelming the liver and, critically, damaging the endothelium, the delicate inner lining of blood vessels responsible for regulating blood flow to the heart, brain, muscles, and especially the legs. This is where the most significant damage occurs. When the endothelium becomes inflamed, a common occurrence among seniors who regularly consume syrup-laden foods, circulation slows. Blood can no longer flow unimpeded to the lower extremities. Blood vessels constrict, oxygen delivery diminishes, and the tissues in the legs, feet, and toes suffer as a result. This leads to the onset of observable symptoms such as increased swelling, particularly around the ankles, a sensation of heaviness in the legs after prolonged sitting or walking, intermittent numbness or tingling in the feet, and a gradual but noticeable reduction in the ease of movement, not due to muscle weakness, but due to compromised blood flow. This is not simply a consequence of aging, it is diet-induced vascular dysfunction, and canned fruit and syrup is one of the most rapid pathways to its development. The deceptive nature of this product lies in the false sense of making a healthy choice. Labels proudly display peaches or fruit cocktail, and their convenience, shelf-stable and easy to open, makes them attractive. They are frequently found in healthcare settings, including hospitals, retirement homes. Even varieties labeled light or in light syrup offer a false sense of security. Light syrup is still syrup. A small can often contains 20 to 30 grams of sugar in a single serving, surpassing the sugar content of many candy bars, yet it is consumed without the associated guilt. This leads to more frequent consumption, often accompanying breakfast, lunch, or as a supposedly healthy dessert. Each instance floods the body with sugar, leading to insulin spikes, digestive disruption, and inflammation of the vascular system, all without providing any lasting satiety. This is because canned fruit in syrup not only adds sugar, but also removes the very elements that make fruit beneficial. It lacks fiber, it lacks significant hydration, and it lacks structural integrity. The heat used in the canning process degrades the cellular structure of the fruit, leaving behind a soft, lifeless pulp that is rapidly digested and offers virtually no genuine nutritional value. Your body perceives it as candy because, from a biological standpoint, That is precisely what it has become. The satisfying chewiness is gone, the sense of fullness is absent, and all that remains is sweetness and syrup, with your blood vessels bearing the brunt of the impact. The consequences are felt in numerous small, frustrating ways: aching legs after standing for extended periods, an increased need to elevate the feet, peculiar tightness in the calves, or thigh shakiness when ascending stairs. These are not random occurrences, but are signals, quiet pleas from your circulatory system, indicating that your endothelial lining is inflamed, your blood viscosity is increasing, and oxygen delivery is slowing. The most concerning aspect is that over time, this damage can become normalized, leading to the mistaken belief that these symptoms are an inevitable part of aging. However, the reality is that the body is contending with unnecessary friction and is losing this battle. When blood flow is impeded, all bodily functions become more challenging, including walking, thinking, healing, and sleeping. No pill can effectively reverse the microvascular damage caused by daily sugar intake from canned fruit. Therefore, the recommended course of action is unequivocal. Eliminate canned fruit and syrup entirely from your diet. There is no acceptable level of moderation for this product, as it offers no biological benefits, provides no protection, and does not contribute to healthy aging. If you desire fruit, opt for fresh, whole, seasonal varieties, consumed with the skin whenever possible. If fresh options are unavailable, choose unsweetened frozen fruit or fruit packed in water or its own juice. Even in these cases, meticulous label reading, draining, and rinsing can help minimize sugar exposure. Most importantly, listen to your body. Many seniors report feeling lighter, experiencing less swelling, enhanced mental clarity, and even a reduced reliance on walking aids after discontinuing canned fruit and syrup. This is not a miraculous transformation, but rather the body functioning without undue interference. Blood flowing freely to where it is needed, tissues receiving vital oxygen, and aging occurring on your terms, unburdened by the detrimental effects of imitative fruit. Thus, canned peaches are not harmless. Pineapple and syrup is not a light option, and those small plastic fruit cups often dispensed in medical settings are not nourishment, but rather an act of sabotage delivered via spoon. Your legs yearn for freedom, your heart for ease, and your blood for the space to circulate effectively. Embrace real food, real health, and real circulation by saying no to syrup and giving your body the opportunity to move with the fluidity it still remembers, because that capability remains within it. Overripe mangoes, the sweet surrender. While mangoes can be a healthy and delicious choice when consumed in moderation and accompanied by healthy fats, overripe mangoes present a different challenge. As mangoes mature, their sugar content increases, while their fiber content may decrease. This combination can lead to a significant sugar spike upon consumption, potentially weakening the body's insulin response and leaving one feeling dizzy or experiencing a heaviness in the legs. A common practice among seniors involves incorporating mangoes into smoothies or desserts, often without a full understanding of how this seemingly healthy fruit can subtly undermine their circulatory health. Instead of overripe mangoes, consider opting for alternatives that offer comparable sweetness and flavor with significantly more health benefits. Berries, particularly blueberries and raspberries, are an excellent choice. They are rich in antioxidants, inherently low in sugar, and actively contribute to the protection of blood vessels. Raw apples, especially those with their skins intact, are a superb source of fiber, which plays a crucial role in regulating blood sugar levels and promoting a feeling of fullness. Avocados, while technically a fruit, offer a unique nutritional profile. They are packed with potassium and healthy fats, which are essential for supporting muscle tone and overall physical function. It is evident that not all fruits are equally beneficial for individuals over the age of 60. Some fruits can disrupt blood sugar levels, negatively impact leg health and insidiously diminish physical strength. By avoiding the 7 fruits listed and instead fueling your body with options that actively protect and nourish your muscles, you can make a profound difference in your quality of life. Because when your legs falter, your freedom and independence follow. Strive to walk strong by making wise dietary choices.